Hey, you know what? Are you gonna get started?
Hey, thanks for coming. Want me to start first?
Yes, please.
Okay. Let me tell you a little bit about my background, and Mary's going to get into her story. And this is like Metaphysics 201. Metaphysics 101 was talking about our story, Divinely Touched, and what happened to Mary. I know some of you came to our other presentation, Proof the Spirit Dimension Exists. Because you have to understand that the spirit dimension exists in order to know that things like entities can attack you, which is what we're talking about here. This is why we call this Metaphysics 201. And actually we have advanced degrees in metaphysics after everything Mary's been through. But to start off, my background, I started out in science education. I was a science teacher, taught middle school science, and then I taught high school biology and biochemistry. I got a master's in counseling, then another master's in school psychology, and I continued grad school because I like grad school so much. I got a PhD in mental health. My dissertation was on comparing traditional treatments to alternative therapies for mental disorders, which turned into my first book, Holistic Mental Health. So what I got involved in was a whole other realm when I met Mary. And that's why we got involved in all this type of
Lucky him.
supernatural type stuff, we can call it. But to start out, let's have a couple of disclaimers, because what we're going to talk about is not the usual science kind of thing. And I love what Plato said, those that are able to see beyond the shadow and lies of their culture will never be understood, let alone believed by the masses. And Wayne Dyer also said, the highest form of ignorance is when you reject something you don't know anything about. For example, like you tell a doctor that you're hearing voices or seeing things, what are they going to do? They're going to send you to a psych ward.
Which they did to me, and drugged me and knocked me out for 3 days straight. So I wouldn't see or hear anything.
Please, we started without Joe. Sorry.
Sorry.
That's right. So, what are we going to talk about today? Some of our guiding questions are, what is an entity? What is the history behind entity possession? And if you remember from our other presentation, proving that the spirit dimension exists, well, how do you prove something? You prove something by a variety of ways. And we find that historical evidence is one way you can prove something. Another way, what is the current research on entity possession? Another avenue of proof is replicated results. So has other researchers found this to be true? And the third avenue of proof, what are the physical and mental symptoms of entity possession? Another aspect of proof is personal experience. That's why we're here, because of what Mary went through, personal experience. And we're going to talk about ways to clear entity attachments. So Mary's going to talk a little bit about what happened to her.
Thank you all for being here. If you had told me 10 years ago that I'd be standing in front of all of you today, I would never believed you, because looking for a journey through the metaphysical world was not one that I was seeking. But after my spiritual awakening, initiated by a demon-possessed ex-boyfriend, it has brought me here today in front of you all. I had a normal life. Who's to say what normal is? But years ago, after I high school, I got married. Back then, that's what you did. I was never on my own. I worked in finance and accounting for 20 years in a large corporation in Providence, Rhode Island. And, I had what most perceived to be as a normal life. I work every day, came home, cooked, cleaned, took care of the house. That's life as most of us know it. But after a very abusive, controlling marriage, I got divorced and was on my own for the first time in 15 years. So for the first few years, I was too afraid to even go out because I was never on my own. So I bought a dog, and she was my life and happiness. But after several years, I felt I needed to venture out. I needed something more. So after dating several more relationships that were very controlling and abusive, I started to get very sick. I started having abdominal bloating. I was out to here. I had sores all over my face. I had cuts on my body. I wake up with cuts on my body, black and blues all over my body. My cank is on my tongue. My lips started turning black. My eyes turned black. I was extremely sick, exhausted all the time, and I went to every doctor, specialist. They put me through every test you can think of, but all my test results showed nothing was wrong. And they couldn't understand because they could see how sick I was. I mean, I was barely alive. And so after going through all these doctors, and finally I met my favorite doctor, Dr. D, who helped me seek out, because this was a whole new world to me, looking into shamans, energy healers, psychics, because I grew up Catholic. I went to Catholic school from 1st to 12th grade, you know, and I had very traditional thinking. This metaphysical world, I was not involved with at all. But after suffering so much, I came to find out that there's a whole other world going on within this world that we think is so real. We think it's not the spirit world, it's the real world that we're so connected to. But, so when the doctors had no answers for my symptoms, I started seeking out shamans, energy healers, psychics, that did tell me what was going on with me. And all their healings started to save and change my life, where the doctors and their pills and their drugs didn't do anything, in fact, made me even worse. Which proved to me that, you know, we are all energy, and energy healings is what clears energy, not drugs and chemicals. Now Dr. Dave will explain why and how these entities affect us so,
Right.
and how they can come attached to you and cause you physical and mental illness.
So let's begin at the beginning. What is an entity? What are we talking about? I'm sure most of you here are familiar with this kind of stuff, but just in quick review, an entity is often a trapped, earthbound spirit. This is also called a dark force entity because they're trapped in the earth plane, which is the astral plane, which is a denser vibration than spiritual beings. So where is the astral plane? Well, the astral plane is right around us, okay? And how they have not transitioned to the light. So they get trapped in this astral plane. Why do they get trapped in the astral plane? Well, sometimes they are attached to their body or where they live. Another reason, loved ones are attached to the deceased. A third reason, that they don't believe in God and they turn away from the light. So rather than fully transition, they turn away from the light and get trapped in the astral plane. And they don't realize they're dead. They become confused and trapped in the earth plane. So these are what we call reasons why someone gets trapped in the earth plane or the astral field. It becomes a dark force entity. They become attached to similar vibrations, causing physical and mental problems. This is called attachments. So an entity attachment is someone feeding off and kind of amplifying maybe your negative feelings, your depression, your substance abuse or something. So they're amplifying these feelings because maybe they died from substance abuse themselves or suicide. A second level is spirit possession, because 99% of attachments are the first level here, level 1, which we're talking about up here. Level 2, a higher level of attachment, is when this entity takes over the individual altogether. This is what Hollywood glamorifies things like movies like The Exorcist. A new Exorcist movie came out last week, right? That's a spirit totally taking over an individual. A higher level, and actually a third level of possession, is a demon-possessed entity, which is, again, something that's not just a dark force entity attaching to someone, but something from another realm, which we call a demon, which can really create havoc.
And when I was seeing this guy at the time, when this first started happening to me, the first initiation was, he turned to me and started telling me, and I don't even think he knew he was possessed, because I knew nothing of this at the time. And it came in and out of him. I could see it because he started telling me things that no one would know. Only God would know about my life. And I said, oh my God. And he goes, and he turned his head, he goes, am I a messenger from God? And then he turned his head, and when he turned back at me, he goes, or am I? And his eyes were beet red. Well, before that, they were black. There was no whites in his eyes, it was all black. And then when he turned again, his eyes were beet red. And then everything started happening to me. I turned the radio on, says, come on, girls, the battle of the souls. The TV started talking to me. Everything I was thinking, the universe was answering me some way or another. It was unbelievable. Go ahead, I'm sorry. I just had to say that. And that's, so he was demon possessed. I mean, you could see it come in and out of this. His eyes would change. And then it would go, and he would act like not happy. Like he didn't even know what he just said to me. It was unbelievable.
Okay. So another,
I know, I could
in the
go
book.
for hours now.
So another aspect, again, of proof is historical perspectives. So if you look, and remember what Plato said, or Wayne Dyer, people are unaware of things. But if you look at the history of entity possession, it goes as far back as recorded time. The Assyrians back as far as they proved in certain prayers to gods for ridding themselves of evil forces and demons. But if we look at archaeological evidence, archaeologists have found prehistoric skulls with holes drilled in the skulls and growth around those holes, indicating that the person lived after the operation. And they believe that the reason they drilled holes in these skulls was to release evil spirits. So this goes back thousands of years. They found skulls like that. You can look at ancient cultures. I was talking about Chinese, Greeks, Romans, Hebrews, Indian, all talked about releasing evil spirits from individuals that are possessed. As a matter of fact, exorcism means to cast out evil spirits in the name of God. The Assyrians I was talking about 2,500 years ago on stone tablets talked about rituals to rid people of these evil spirits. Same thing in Egyptian hieroglyphics. There are prayers and rituals that are exorcisms. If you look at Native Americans, they had all sorts of rituals to rid people of evil spirits. Persia, 600 BC, a religious leader named Zoroaster developed exorcism rituals. And Buddha's mother, as well as King Solomon, were known as exorcists at the time. Jesus, in the New Testament, reports 1/4 of all of his healings in the New Testament reports in ridding people of evil spirits, such as in Matthew 10:1, Jesus gave his 12 disciples the power against unclean spirits to cast them out. So if we look at more recent historical perspectives, we can look at the Middle Ages. Up until the end of the Middle Ages, whenever someone was sick, whether it be mental or physical illness, clergy would accompany a doctor in order for healing. So that kind of ended at the end of the Middle Ages, 1500, 1600. And prior to that, the church developed exorcism rituals. But when Newtonian science started taking hold and medicine started growing, those rituals were kind of left to the church, and there was kind of a separation between the clergy and exorcists and doctors. But if you look at recent research, William James, who's considered the father of American psychology, believed that mental illness is caused by evil spirits. Dr. Carl Whitman, 30 Years Among the Dead, he wrote a book about his experience in ridding people of these evil spirits. He and his wife, who was a clairvoyant, who could see these spirits, would travel around the country ridding people of these entities and curing them. He was, anyone familiar with the Ed and Lorraine Warren? The Conjuring series, the movies? Whitman was like 50 years before that. Did the same thing with his wife, who was a psychic. Annabelle Chaplin, in her book, she was a psychotherapist. In her book, The Bright Light of Death, in 1977, she talks about that depression, mental illness, all these types of things were caused by evil spirits or attachments. Once she rid her patients of that, they were cured. Dr. Edith Fiore in The Unquiet Dead, a psychologist, treats spirit possession, another psychologist, and she again documented that 70% of her patients were cured when she rid them of evil spirits. Reverend Eugene Murray, in his book, Exorcism, How to Clear at a Distance a Spirit-Possessed Person, he was an exorcist that did everything over the distance because he didn't want anything being attached to him. But again, he talked about his healing efforts, clearing people through exorcisms, kind of like over the phone. Susan Chomsky, in her book, Divine Revelation, she talks about different reasons why people get trapped in the earth realm, the astral plane, which I talked about earlier. So she talks about why someone becomes a negative entity, essentially. William Baldwin, Healing Lost Souls, he was a psychologist that believes not only emotional and mental illness, but also physical illnesses were caused by entity attachments.
Such as mine. All my physical illness, as soon as I got clearance, all my problems went. It was all energy, negative energy attachment.
Yeah.
And that's why the doctors couldn't find it, because they couldn't see spirit yet. They are going to come up with equipment that does show this in the future. Like you can see auras now, and I've been told by different people that they will have, the technology in the future to see what's attached to people. And so send them for healings instead of treating them with drugs. So we can't wait for that day.
Sonia Choquette, in her book, again, she's a spiritual coach and speaker. In her book, Ask Your Guides, talks about negative emotions are lower vibrations and how these attract negative entities. And she makes a distinction between negative thoughts and lower vibrations and higher thoughts and higher vibrations, like love and acceptance.
You see, and at the time when I met this boyfriend, because I was vibrating, back then I didn't know about vibration and the law of attraction, I was vibrating very low, because I had very low self-esteem, I was abused, I never felt good enough, I was always put down. So when I'm vibrating low, so you're one with everything in the universe, so what's going to come and match me? A low vibration, because that's what it feeds off. Right now it stays live and amplified all my negativity even more. Because that's how it lives and thrives and survives, because it's an energy. Everything is energy. It doesn't know any better. It's not its fault. That's all it knows what to do.
Attach itself to
to attach to something so it can keep thriving and living through my depression. And I was drinking a lot than drinking, and that's why a lot of drug people have attachments. It's because a lot of lost souls probably did do drugs, and that's how they keep thriving. They're living it, they're feeling it through you, because everything's an energy. Oh, yeah, that's right. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself.
We'll get into that. Next slide. Ed and Lorraine Warren, okay, the demonologist, their book in 2013, he talks about his research. Ed was a paranormal investigator sent by the church, Catholic Church, in order to investigate reports of people being possessed. And his wife, Lorraine, was a psychic who could actually see these negative spirits and energies. So they would investigate something, and then the church would send an exorcist, once they verified it, the church would send an exorcist out to clear it. And the Amityville Horror, that movie was from their research, as well as the Conjuring movies. I think there's 3 Conjuring movies that were based on with their work. This was back in the 60s and 70s. They did the majority of their work. So unfortunately, they're not around right now. Pope Francis, if you go to YouTube, I don't think we're connected to YouTube here. But in Pope Francis, if you go to YouTube and write in Pope Francis exorcism, it shows a brief video of him actually doing a clearing on an individual to clear negative energies.
You can actually see how his mouth and how it's like how he's releasing it.
And,
Oh, yeah, his mouth.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
see when it's an actor, so he's like,
very dramatic
It's coming
after he
out.
does the clearing on this individual. It's really quick, but it's just a short video, but everyone who watches it thinks he's clearing negative energies from this individual. Okay, now Mary's going to talk a little bit about some things that happened to her. Again, Third Avenue of Proof, personal experience.
unusual physical sensations in your body, which I always was feeling. I was always feeling tingly and jumping, and at night especially, it would be like, I would just be laying there, my arm would just go up, and my leg would just go up, and this would happen, and so I couldn't sleep, which was another thing, because it kept wanting to keep me awake, because without sleep, it makes you even sicker, right? And that's what it feeds off. I got more depressed. I can't sleep now. And it would jolt me. It was like, it was constant like this. All these sensations, I was like this constantly in my body for no reason at all. Next, looking into a mirror and seeing someone else's face. I couldn't look into the fact that I'm empty. I'd be in the mirror and I wouldn't see my face. It would be someone else's face looking back at me in the mirror. And a lot of times I would look at Dave or one of you, and your face would change right in front. Have you ever had that happen? Right in front. I'm like, oh, I'm scared. Like, whoa, what? I go, your face just changed. It was like I was seeing these spirits coming through in the other dimension. Doing or saying something completely out of character for yourself, which happened to me a lot, because normally I'm a quiet, good person. And I would say or do something, I don't even remember saying or doing, or I would say, why would I say that or do that? It's like, that's not me. Because it really wasn't me. It was coming through me, speaking or doing something that would be out of character of my normal character, because it was taking over me. Hearing inner voices that are not yours, trying to make you do something that you normally wouldn't do. Having a feel come over you like a wave of depression. I mean, I had nothing to be, depressed. I mean, I had kind of a good life. It's like, but I would be like the most miserable person. So depressed, like I felt like so defeated in life. Sudden character shifts or mood swings, totally, up and down. I was constantly on a roller coaster like that. And because the doctors thought that I was mental. Physical difficulties, I had no medical answers on. I had tons of those, as I said, the bruises, the bloating, the cancers, the sores. No, there's nothing wrong with you. All the tests, I went to infectious disease doctors, cancer, everything you could think of. Every doctor I went to told me a mystery. They said, I've been doing this 30 years. It's like, and I see how sick you are, and your blood even shows you how they fit, but yet your skin completely white, there's nothing wrong with you. They couldn't explain it. Nightmares I had constantly, horrific things that I never would even think about that would come through to me. Waking up with bruises all over, cuts on my body. Sudden physical pains not experienced before, or that had no normal cause. Low energy, poor concentration, poor memory. Yes, it affects you that way. Sudden compulsions or addictions to things like alcohol, drugs, or sex. When you're over. It's true. That's how they thrive or feed off. So a lot of this is because of that entity is amplifying everything. Unexplained noises of energy in your house. And I had it even in my house, and I had my house cleared, but the lights would go on and off on their own. Like, the lights would, I would put it down, and then a few minutes, I looked, and the light switches up, and the lights are on. Like, how did it get up on its own? It was unreal. Well, this goes into more detail. I could talk hours about this, of things that happened.
So how do you know you're being possessed by a negative energy, or you just don't have the, or maybe you just have the flu? Well, there's ways you can test for it. Okay, and the first way is you should make sure you don't just have the flu, right? You go to a doctor. We're not saying everything is caused by negative entities, but when there are no medical answers, and again, Mary went through years of medical tests, and no doctor could find out what was going on with her until we went to a shaman or a lighter or psychic, and they told her what was going on. And this wasn't just one. This was, 20, 30 psychics
all over the country
years,
that didn't know each other, didn't know my story. So I wouldn't say anything. All I have to do is, and they tell me exactly what's going on with me. I was like, oh my God. It's like, how can you deny that? They're all telling me the same thing from all over the country, not knowing each other, not knowing me. And that's validation, that's, you know, that's scientific proof.
So ideally, if you seek out a shaman or light worker or clergy or exorcist, someone who can see what's going on and tell you is what you really need to do. And you should ask that shaman before they do rituals on you, can you see energy? Can you see what's going on? One person Mary did applied kinesiology, and he wasn't a shaman, but he was like a natural healer. And you want to explain what he did?
And kinesiology, I don't know if you're familiar with it, it's like your body can't lie to yourself. It knows it's true. So my name is Mary, so that, you know, I can't resist that because my name is Mary. If it said Dave, my arm would go down. So he tested me to see how much of my body was affected with negative, dark energy. And when he did it, he kept doing 90% of my body, and that's why I was so sick, as I was attached with negative energy. It was like most of my body was all negative, dark energy. And that's why I was so sick and barely alive.
And one thing we use a lot is pendulum. And actually we're doing this Thursday, right? We're, our upcoming events, there's a sheet here, also at our table where we have our books. But our upcoming events, this Thursday we're going to go into detail about body kinesiology, as well as the use of pendulums, and how to connect to divine signs, which is another chapter in our book, and different, how to become more psychic, all these different ways to connect to these signs. So we're doing that Thursday at Divine Soul Wellness, which is on Port St. Lucie Boulevard over here. So this is our schedule here. So we're going to talk about how to do that, using pendulums and stuff. Rosary, crucifix. If you read the Warren's work, one test he uses is a crucifix. He'll have someone that he's working with come up behind a possessed person and touch a crucifix on the back of their neck. And if that person knows what he did, then he could tell maybe it's a demon that's attacking this individual. So demons, that highest level, that third level of possession, they don't like rosaries, crucifix, or churches, things like that. So that's kind of another test, depending on how you're possessed. But remember, you know, that's extremely rare. Things like The Exorcist, the movies, that kind of stuff is very rare. Most times, people just get these negative attachments by people that haven't transitioned to the light, which are amplifying these bad feelings you have. Animal senses. One thing, animals are very attuned to these energies, and a lot of times if your little dog is barking over at the corner and there's nothing there, well, a dog sees something there.
Cats too.
Yes.
Cats
Which
see
happened, yes. Oh, cats too, they see, yeah. When this happened to me, when I was really the battle for myself, my dog barely made a peep. It was a little dog, this was years ago, and when I could start hearing animals screeching, like I was in this world, but I could hear and see the other world at the same time, and I knew it was coming, and it was coming, and I was barely alive, and I could hear what was going on in the other world. Of course, no one else could, you know, no average person couldn't, but my dog was going crazy, running back and forth in the room, growling, which she hardly ever did, and there was nothing outside, there was no one else home in the house. It just kept growling and growling and growling the whole time I was in that dimension with the other world, hearing all these screeching animals, and where they were trying to take my life.
Now,
I was going into convulsions.
Now, some people attract these negative energies. How do they attract them? Well, they attract them through, like, calling in demonic spirits. Use of Ouija boards. Conjuring 2, the second Conjuring movie, and in Ed's book, Ed Warren's book, he talks about this little girl that used a Ouija board to call in this demonic entity that created a lot of havoc in the house. And that was through the Ouija board. Seances, black magic, black witchcraft, satanic rituals, these are all ways people can call in these negative energies. Going to haunted places. People think it's exciting. Well, not too exciting if something attaches to you and
Trying to get rid of it.
Tries to kill you. weakened states of consciousness. So when you're on either substance abuse or even prescription drugs, these are weakened states of consciousness, which kind of opens the door to let these negative energies in and take hold on you. Negative thinking actions. Again, this is that low vibration that Sonia Choquette was talking about, that attracts these energies. Voluntary attachments is when, again, kind of related to the things above here, people actually going out looking for these demons or doing satanic rituals are attracting these attachments. Sometimes karma, Mary didn't really go looking for this.
No, I didn't even know anything about it. But it was part of my karma to learn about this, because I was going to let the universe know, I was going to meet Dave, we were going to write about this and help people learn and clear them from this. And then I became an energy healer, and I can clear this myself for people. And that's why, so it was part of my karma, because I wasn't part of any of that. I wasn't looking for, I hated Harvard and all that stuff, and I'm like, this happens to me, I hate all that stuff, right? But the universe knew the rest of the story, why I had to go through it.
Yeah, ghost hunting. There's all these shows, paranormal investigation, all these things on TV nowadays. And people are actually looking for ghosts, right? They go into these haunted places and they're using special equipment, which means that they can't see energies. They have to use equipment to look for these energies. And they're trying to document haunted places or ghosts or find ghosts. Yeah. And to me, that's crazy. What if they come across a demon, right? And this is like running through the jungle, looking for a tiger, and you're going to grab that tiger by the tail, right? A friend of ours, Dr. Bob, who was an exorcist we met years ago, who was telling us a story that he was clearing a house, and he could see energy. He saw, when he went into this house, it was all sorts of negative energies there, and he realized there was a real demon in that house.
So he could see the walls bleeding in the house,
Right.
in the other dimension.
And his guardian angel told him, you did enough today, because he was there for a few hours trying to clear everything. And he said, no, I want to finish. He didn't listen to his guardian angel. When this demon poked him in the eye, and to this day, he's blind in his left eye, because he didn't listen to his guardian angel.
That's how real, it's just how they attacked me, like that's how real. It poked him in the eye, and from that moment on, he was blind. The other world affected his eye. It's right here. It's just, we can't see it, most people can't see it. But these gifted people who can, it's like, there's no separation, we're one with it.
And again, a lot of people, most of you I'm sure, realize about the laws of attraction. What you put out there, it comes back to you. But it's amazing, being a psychologist, and I spent the last 15 years as a school psychologist, most people don't know the difference between positive and negative thoughts. And I'm always amazed, even today, not your friends, or not you, I'm sure, but if you talk to the general population, they're always talking about exactly what they don't want. Oh, it's winter, I always come down with 3 or 4 flus every winter.
Then you're
They
gonna
don't
get sick.
realize attraction, what attraction is.
Yeah.
So, again, that creates havoc.
See, Judy said, if I go out in the
So
rain,
what are some solutions
she did.
to entity possession? Well, and these are ways to clear attachment. Seek out a professional. Again, someone who can see these energies and see what's going on. An exorcist, a light worker, shamans, or clergy. This person is in our book, Jerry Miller, who studied in the Amazon for 30 years, and Mary worked with him and had some healings from him. He again, was an exorcist from the Amazon tradition of Indians. Use clearing prayers. In our book, we have a whole chapter on spiritual healing, chapter 9, which talks about a lot of different types of prayers, as well as all these different aids that Mary's used over the years. Sage, people know of sage clearing things. We go to a Reiki session at Scented Dragon. They do that Tuesday and Friday nights, free Reiki session, Scented Dragon, right down the street from here. And they'll sage you first, and they'll sage the room. So again, sage is supposedly goes back thousands of years of clearing these negative energies. crystals. Does anyone see any crystals for sale? Salt baths, a way to get rid of negative energy. You wanna talk about the other two? Castor
Salt?
oil.
What kind of salt?
It's very
What kind of
clean,
salt?
clear. Epsom salt, Himalayan salt,
Sea salt.
very sea salt, yeah, very, very clear.
Huh.
Yeah.
Or jump in the
And
ocean,
castor
jump in the
oil.
ocean.
Well, and of course the ocean, yeah. Castor oil, when my stomach was like that, and the only way, I couldn't even stand up straight, because I was so loaded with, with darkness in my stomach, yeah. I used to castor oil my stomach and then wrap my stomach in order to stay up straight with hand, and that kind of like soothed, and it's supposed to pull a lot of negativity out. And canker be gone, it's so funny because I had cankers all in my mouth, but the regular canker stuff sold in the store didn't affect it, like it didn't take it away. I went into this, it was called the White Light store, it's kind of like a spiritual store back in Rhode Island, it's the first time I ever was in it. As soon as I walked in, my eyes went, canker be gone. It's like, in this spiritual store, they had a thing, I bought it, I said, I can't believe you had it, and it took it away. It's like, whatever was in that, like, they know that spirit attacks this way, and that whatever's in that remedy helps it. Because the average canker stuff in stores didn't take my cankers away, because it wasn't a normal canker from a cold, it was a canker from negative dark forces, spiritually.
Yeah, rosary, crucifix. When we had an exorcist come up to our house and clear the house from the basement to through the second floor, even the attic, right? He put rosaries that he had gotten from the Vatican in all the different rooms for us. So again, those have a high energy protection prayers. Mary's going to do like a 5-minute protection clearing at the end of this, right? Because that all that we are is the result of what we have thought. The mind is everything. What we think, we become. Someone named Buddha said that, supposedly. Okay, and another personal hero of mine, Einstein, says the most important decision we make is whether we believe we live in a friendly or hostile universe. So for most people, again, 99% of the population, you're not being attacked by these third-level demons. You're just maybe attaching some of these negative earthbound entities, clearing them through some of these ways, or prayers and belief is the way to get rid of them. Now, what started all this years ago was a movie called The Exorcist. And Hollywood kind of jumped on that bandwagon. The Amityville Horror, as well as The Haunting and The Conjuring, were all stuff by Ed and Lorraine Warren, based on their research. Most of these other movies, Ghost, The Sixth Sense, the others, all talk about this realm of energy, negative entities attacking people, and are based on true stories. We met people, like in The Ghost, that could see, or The Sixth Sense, that could see energies. I like The Ghost. Again, that may not be a true story, but at the end, when Patrick Swayze goes to the light, well, that's how it is. You know, he transitions to the light when he's done doing what he had to do on Earth around his right, yeah. The Sixth Sense, we've met people that can see dead people when they were children. The Others, anyone see the movie The Others? Nicole Kidman?
Yeah,
okay, that's a great movie.
Wasn't that a great movie? That was amazing.
Because it's all about this kind of a big mansion.
Great surprise.
You know, Nicole Kidman's there with her 2 kids who are light sensitive, and she's always drawing the curtains in this big like mansion house. And for some reason the curtains keep opening and everything, and all sorts of strange things are going on in the house. So you think, well, you know, there's ghosts in the house. Not until you realize at the very end she sees a picture of herself and her 2 kids that are dead by their coffins. So she was the ghost, and her kids were the ghosts in the house.
And they were haunting the people who were living there. And they didn't even realize it. It was unbelievable.
Now, I included The Shack in here in my list of paranormal DVDs. Anyone here see The Shack? It's one of my favorite movies of all time, because it talks about why things happen, where the individual he spends the weekend, Sam Worthington's character, spends the weekend with God, Octavia Spencer, and she explains to him why bad things happen and why things happen on earth.
And also the exorcism of Emily Rose, did anyone ever see that? Now that's a true story. This poor girl, they're gonna make her, they're making her a saint. Really happened to her like it happened to me. But even where, I mean, she didn't live, she died, but it so took over her body.
That was a demon.
Yeah, the demon so took that she would eat butt, it would make her eat butt. And this girl was a very good Christian girl. She was in college, had a nice boyfriend, came from a good family. And this dark entity took over her and started making her do horrific things. She would eat bugs. You could see her climb the wall. She actually jumped out of her glass window and started running on the lawn. It was unbelievable. And the priest knew what was going on because the doctors thought that she was psychotic. But true story, the poor girl.
Right. And these are some of the references we talked about in our presentation as well as in our book. Of course, the best resource you're going to get on this subject is our book, Divinely Touched, which is for sale at our booth out there. Because it goes through Mary's story, everything she experienced on her 5-year journey going from the East Coast to the West Coast of the United States, like California, seeking out shamans and spiritual healers and light workers and trying to clear her of these energies. In the second half of the book, I get into the science behind all these things. You know, how energy can exist outside the body. We talk about not only entity possession, but we get into divine signs, and we talk about even where the human race is going to go in the future. So that's in the second half of the book. Right, and then some of these other references I talked about in this presentation. But again, at the end of our book, we have a couple of hundred books that we've read, references that you can look up. Okay? Because we've always had the power all along. So Mary's going to do a brief healing meditation because we still have time. And at the end of the presentation, if you like our presentation, this is the PowerPoint that's over here. You can take one of those, everything we talked about, as well as where we're going over the next couple of months as far as our schedule. Because we live here in Port St. Lucie. Yes?
Yes.
What about all these kids that are dying of drug overdoses?
They're all entity possessed. They are. When I look at the news and I see, the drug overdoses, the people go and kill somebody in the schools, and they say, why would I do that? They're all, we can see it. I can see it. It's all possessed.
Yeah, negative
They're
energy.
possessed.
They're saying 50% of the kids are going to be dying of all these drugs.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. That's why we
Not
try to
all
get
of-
this.
Not all of them. Some of
get
them,
out,
a lot of times that's their karma. They have to overcome the substance abuse in this lifetime. If they don't, they'll come back and try it
And
again.
do it again.
Yeah. Until they wake up to it. Yeah.
Right? And sometimes things happen not for them, but for people around them too.
To learn and grow their souls.
Yeah.
Because remember, we affect every point in infinity, not only here, but every point in infinity. So what happens to one happens to all. It affects everybody in a certain way to learn and grow their souls.
Great question, thank you. Any other questions, comments?
Yeah. Can you get an attachment from like a traumatic event?
Yes, of course, because that's trauma to your body.
Okay.
Yeah.
From what? I'm sorry.
A traumatic event.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
Like
because that's a low frequency. When you're the trauma, that's low. It's like you're vibrating low.
Also, like in hospitals.
Oh my God,
Hospitals, funeral parlors,
Funeral
and
parlors.
sometimes
That's where they hang
graveyards.
out.
Sometimes graveyards. They'll hang out.
Yes, that's where they hang out, because a lot of them, pass over in hospitals or the funeral, and they never transition, so they're hanging out there and they're waiting, because when you're vibrating low, your aura is like a protection around you, but when you're vibrating, it makes tears in it, which opens them to come in and attach to your energy field.
Are you teaching this?
Yes, yeah. With the other presentation we do, we really get it when we talk about how this all and why it happens, in more
Yeah, I did the
detail.
William Rowan program.
I'm sorry?
I did the William Rowan program.
Oh, you did, excellent,
Yeah, it's
excellent,
powerful.
yeah, excellent.
And his wife did it. Yeah, he died.
Okay, right, yeah. Yeah, we need to get this out, because this is what's gonna change people. It's not going to a doctor and taking a drug. we're energy, we're spirit, we need to clear. And not only from this life, if in your past lives, you could have done something or had attachment, until you clear that from your past lives, it's gonna follow you every lifetime, and, because it's attached to you.
These are what some psychics told me.
Yeah, until you clear it, and the only way to clear it is through energy healing.
So she's going to do a brief clearing meditation. Okay, hopefully everyone will feel better from this. So I want you, everybody take a deep breath
Breath,
now.
and then close your eyes,
Close your eyes.
relax. Some people see color, some people see color. With each breath you take, tiny platinum white balls of light are flowing in through your nose and down to your abdomen, making you more and more relaxed with each breath. With each breath, all your spirit guides, ascended masters, archangels of light, and the violet flame assemble around you. They place their hands on your abdomen, radiating violet fire into your abdomen, helping the platinum white balls of light take shape in your abdomen, forming a ball of purifying light. With each breath, this ball of platinum white energy is forming and growing and expanding in your abdomen. With each breath you take, the ball of light is growing larger, purifying your every cell, every fiber, expanding outward and pushing any and all darkness out of you. The ball of platinum light grows into a miniature sun, just like the sun in our solar system, deep within your abdomen. This sun, this pure platinum white energy, is radiating through every atom and cell in your being. It fills you with light from the top of your head to the tips of your fingers and down to the soles of your feet. It shines through and beyond you at arm's length in every direction. It starts extending upward, connecting you to the heavens. All your guides are around you, helping the light within you radiate upwards. Nothing is stopping the stream of platinum white light. You are now complete platinum white energy. You are totally immersed in it. You are one with the sun, the universal God, creator energy. There is no darkness anywhere within you or around you or near you. You are now totally divine light, totally sunshine, connected to the divine source. The light of God surrounds you. The love of God enfolds you. The power of God protects you. The presence of God watches over you. Wherever you are, God is. At any time during the day, by closing your eyes and taking a deep breath, this divine pure platinum white light flows throughout your body, connecting you to the divine God source. God's loving light is in me, around me, and works through me as me. Wherever I am, God is, and all is perfect in my world, and I am very grateful, and so it is. When you're comfortable, you can open your eyes.
Okay, so that concludes our presentation. Again, our books are for sale at our booth over there. Mary does reconnective energy healing, which is a high frequency healing, hands-off healing that she studied.
With Dr. Eric, are you familiar with Dr. Eric Pearl? You are? Yeah, he was a very successful LA chiropractor when his patients were getting miraculously healed and he wasn't even touching them. And of course, he thought this stuff was all woo-woo until he couldn't deny what was happening to his patients, which led him on his own journey. And now all he does is teach us all over the world. It's very high, it's instant and lasting. I don't have recurring clients. After 1 or 3 sessions, that's it. What's meant to be done is done. Mostly it's only one session. I used to do Reiki, but it's like night and day. It's instant and lasting because it's changing your cells and your DNA in your body to a higher frequency where those lower frequencies cannot stay because it, again, like attracts like. If you're vibrating this high, this little thing has to leave. It cannot stay in that kind of vibration. And that's the difference with the reconnection versus normal energy healings. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
PowerPoint's up here if you want that, as well as our schedule.
And then our schedule. I have to be with some PowerPoint. What do you want, the PowerPoint or the schedule?
Excuse me.
Very good.
Thank you.
Oh, I love it. Oh my gosh, yeah.